Hello and welcome back for another historic video. Today we'll be taking a look at this updated version of Mono White Hammer that we played on the channel previously. The changes that we've made between the last iteration and this one were a couple of our tutor targets. We're trying to shave the Skrelv, Defector Mite, and the Hope of Garafer. In the previous matches, we didn't find ourselves reaching for these cards very frequently. Skrelv being a redundant effect of the 8 Giver and Mother of Ruins that we are already playing, and the Hope of Garafer not really being better than cards such as Gingerbrute, which also have evasion but has haste in addition, so it can attack the turn that it comes in. In their place, what we are going to try is the Kaldra Compleat, which is a 7 mana equipment that has Living Weapon, which means when it enters the battlefield, it will generate a 0/0 germ token and will equip to it. And then what Kaldra does is Kaldra itself has Indestructible, and it also grants Indestructible to the creature it's equipped to. And then it also gives +5/+5, First Strike, Trample, and Haste. And then another effect that you don't see very frequently, but does come into play occasionally, is that whenever this creature deals combat damage to a creature, exile that creature. So with the First Strike, this means that if you have a bunch of chump blockers, First Strike damage happens, the creatures that take damage will be exiled, and then the normal damage will happen after that. And what we're using this for is a tutor target for Stoneforge Mystic. And instead of paying 7 to put it into play, we're looking to pay 2 and cheat it into play that way. And then in the place of one of the other tutor targets, we upped our Esper Sentinel count to 4 from 3, just to have a bit more card draw. And we did want to continue to have cheap creatures to play on turn 1, which is why we opted for a 1-drop creature instead of potentially a 2-drop or 3-drop. Outside of that, the deck remains unchanged, so we're still running our copies of Giver of Ruins and Mother of Ruins to grant protection to our creatures. And then we have our Enlightened Tutor, which will be able to grab our hammer or any of our other tutor targets, which we'll talk about in a second. 4 copies of Stoneforge Mystic, which can grab any of our equipment cards from our deck. And then it also lets us put the equipments into play for 1 white and a generic mana. This can be helpful against counterspell strategies as well, as we can put our equipments into play and dodge any of their counter cards that they might have in hand. Then we have 4 copies of Kemba as a cost reducer for our equipments, so this will allow us to cheat the Colossus Hammer's equipment cost, and occasionally we'll use it on something like Kaldra or the Shadow Spear if we already have some reduced hammers in play. There are 4 copies of Sigarda's Aid, which allow us to play our equipment at instant speed, and then also when they come into play, they can be attached to a creature. And 2 copies of Forged Anew, which allow us to pay 0 for our first equipment cost of each turn. And occasionally we can also bring a equipment back from our graveyard with this Enter the Battlefield ability. Then for our tutor targets, we have 1 copy of Portable Hole as a cheap interactive way of disrupting our opponent or getting rid of one of their key early plays. We have our Colossus Hammer, which is the namesake card in the deck. We have 1 copy of Gingerbrute, which is a hasty threat, which also has some built-in evasion. And occasionally, but not often, we can also sacrifice this creature to gain life. We have a single copy of Grafdigger's Cage as our graveyard hate. A Pithing Needle to turn off our opponent's activated abilities. Good against planeswalkers, creatures, and also certain artifacts or enchantments. And then we have 1 copy of Shadow Spear to give some evasion and lifelink to one of our creatures, usually used after the hammer has already been tutored and equipped. Then for the mana base, we have the 1 copy of Ancient Den, which is tutorable with Enlightened Tutor. 1 copy of Aganjo, which can be used as a removal spell, 12 planes, 4 Inkmoth Nexus, which is great used in combination with Sigarda's Aid or an already cost-reduced hammer via Kemba to deal 11 poison damage to our opponent, winning the game. And then 2 copies of Witch Enchanter, which most of the time will be used as a land, but occasionally it can be played out for 4 mana to destroy an opponent's artifact or enchantment. So really during this league, we'll be taking a close look at the Kaldra to see if we feel it is an upgrade from some of the smaller tutor targets that we took out, and we'll see how it performs in the matches. Before we jump into the gameplay, I'd like to ask you to please like and subscribe the video. It really helps the channel. And without further ado, let's jump into the games. This hand is good. We have a way to tutor for our hammer with the Enlightened Tutor, and then we can cost reduce it with Kemba. We will keep, and then since we have 2 planes, we can even play out Esper Sentinel on turn 1. No play from our opponent. We'll actually grab our Ancient Den here. Okay, here we pass the turn. Our opponent uses an Edict effect, that is fine. And they pay, so now that they're tapped out, we can go get our hammer. And then we'll play out Kemba. Reduce the cost of hammer, and we might as well play out the aid so that we have it for future turns. Annoying. We'll play out the Stoneforge Mystic and go get another. Actually, this time I think we'll take the Kaldra. That way, if our opponent doesn't answer Stoneforge, we have a second threat. Our opponent is likely on a deck that doesn't have many win conditions, and they're just packed full of removal. Karn is fine. Kaldra has haste, so it should be able to take out the Karn. So we'll put in our Kaldra here. And attack Karn. And here we will hold up our Enlightened Tutor for the end of turn. No point in playing into additional board wipes. So we'll sacrifice the Stoneforge and then the Sigarda's Aid. And then here we will tutor up. I think we go with our hasty Ginger Brute. We will hit for 5. Then I think we play the tapped hammer. This way next turn we can cast and equip Ginger Brute and attack all in the same turn. We can also use the Kemba in our hand to reduce the cost of the Kaldra equipment. And our opponent concedes. Good game. This hand does not have a tutor effect for our equipments. It does have quite a few creatures. We can do better. Here we have both the tutor and the cost reducer. We will keep this. Now, do we keep 3 lands or 2 Stones Forge is the question. If we keep the Stone Forge, then we are likely to draw into additional lands, and currently we do only need 2 lands to really function. I think we'll put back the Ancient Den and try it with less mana and hope that we draw into 1 or 2 in the first couple turns. So we'll start on Giver so that she can protect Stoneforge on turn 2. Alright, so this deck is going to be a Nightmare deck where they're going to be trying to go infinite with their graveyard. So we do want to find our Gravedigger's Cage as soon as possible. A rumble from our opponent. More creatures. Here we can use our Outfitter. And then we will equip the Colossus Hammer to Stoneforge. Now, since the hammer has an equipment cost reduced down to 1, I don't mind if they use removal on the Stoneforge Mystic, so I'm going to proactively give it protection from black. That way they either have to take 11 or use their spawn token to chump. And if they remove the Stoneforge, then next turn we just move the equipment to a different creature. They decide to take the hit. Our opponent will have 4 mana here to work with. Deathrite Shaman is fine. We can also give protection from that next turn. And they have an Abrupt Decay, so we lose our hammer. Here I think we tutor up our Kaldra. And then we will give protection to Kemba from black. And we'll swing in for 2. We'll see if they sacrifice the spawn. They do not. So they will be able to gain life here with Deathrite Shaman if they want to. They can also drain us for 2, but they probably won't be selecting that mode. And did they mill over any lands? They probably did. Yep. So they can also generate mana as well. So they have 5 mana showing. And it can go up to 6 if they have another land in hand. There's another piece of their combo in the graveyard, the Gix. So when Gix comes into play, it's going to generate 3 mana, and that mana is what they're going to use to replay the Nightmare after picking it up and essentially looping through the creatures in their graveyard. Then they just need to find a creature that will drain us, but with the Stitcher Supplier, that would be no problem. End of turn, we will put in the Kaldra. If they tap out of colored mana, they won't be able to use Deathrite Shaman to gain life. That will not work. The token has indestructible. And here they don't have any way to gain life, so we'll just give Pro Black, and we can trample over for the last point of damage. Good game. This is a good hand. It has a way to tutor for a hate piece or hammer. And we actually draw hammer off the top, so here we will just hold up our Enlightened tutor. No need to play out the aid until the turn we're ready to use it. And we are on an Eldrazi deck. Here I think we will just go get the portable hole to try and slow our opponent down by a turn. We'll play out the portable hole on their talisman. And then we won't be able to attack with Inkmoth next turn if we play it. So we might as well just get a aid down in play. Second Eldrazi Temple. We'll play out Kemba's Outfitter. Reduce the cost of our hammer. And then we'll play out Stoneforge Mystic and go grab Kaldra. This is mainly a distraction to make our opponent use a removal spell on Stoneforge before we can drop it into play. We do plan on using Inkmoth Nexus here for the win. Our opponent did not use their Kozilek's command, so we'll play out the Esper Sentinel. And then here we will activate Stoneforge and put in Kaldra. See if our opponent uses K command on Esper Sentinel by mistake. And they do. They'll pay the one so we don't draw. But Living Weapon means that we get a Germ token, so that is fine. And then we'll swing in for 7. They take the damage and go down to 13. And we'll pass it back. Since they created tokens and exiled one of our creatures, they did not get any card selection off of that K command. Here they might have a board wipe. They do. That's fine. Just looking to dodge a second K command on our Inkmoth Nexus. They will still be able to exile Inkmoth Nexus with the single Eldrazi Temple showing, but we are going to go for it anyway. And our opponent doesn't have it. Good game. This hand is very good. It has a Sigarder's Aid to equip our hammer and an early creature, as well as a tutor effect to either get a hate piece or a second creature or a second hammer. So we will keep this. Then we will lead off on our Esper Sentinel, and we will set an upkeep stop in case we need to tutor. The Rakdos deck, and our opponent blasts our Sentinel. That's fine. Here I think we will take a natural draw. Don't quite know what to needle yet, so we'll just play out the aid and pass. Soul Guide Lantern is fine. And with Cavern of Souls, we don't expect any removal here. So we will tutor up our hasty ginger root. Then we'll play out ginger root and the Colossus hammer. And we'll hit for 11. And then here I think we will play out our pithing needle, see if we can catch the soul guide lantern to crack it. That also reduces their artifact count. And here I think we'll just name maybe Liliana. And our opponent doesn't have an answer. Here we have an Sigarda's Aid, Stoneforge Mystic. We don't want to see 2 Forged Anew, but I don't think I could throw this one back. We'll start on our Giver of Ruins. Our opponent starts off with some ramp. We'll play out our Stoneforge and tutor up the hammer. And here we don't expect our opponent to have any removal, so we will not hold up our Giver. We'll chip for 1. And they do appear to be on an Elves deck. We'll play out Sigarda's Aid. And then we'll hit with both. Our opponent does not chump block, so we will equip the Stoneforge. Next turn we can give it pro green and attack past any blockers. And then we will use our portable hull on the Elves. We're in a pretty good position here. I don't know if our opponent will have anything in their deck to be able to stop us next turn. Most Elves deck aren't playing any artifact or enchantment destruction these days outside of maybe 1 copy of Boseiju. They will use this to untap the Archdruid. And a second Archdruid won't do it. Good game. On to the next. This hand has a tutor effect for Sigarda's Aid and Stoneforge Mystic to go grab our hammer. Their opponent is on the play. We'll give it a try. If we need to use our tutor to go get interaction, we could be in a bit of trouble. We have a tapped land from our opponent. They play out another... Let's say if they played out another land that was a dual-faced, then we would Pithing Needle the Charbelcher preemptively. And here, since we have the Kemba, I don't think we actually need to go get Sigarda's Aid at the moment. So we will play out the Stoneforge and grab a hammer. Counterspell from our opponent. So we'll try again next turn. We can Pithing Needle the Aetherworks Marvel. So first we'll go grab our hammer. Then we will Pithing Needle the Aetherworks. And our opponent concedes. This hand has a tutor effect with Stoneforge, and then we can reduce the cost of hammer with Kemba. We also have a Pithing Needle and Portable Hole for interaction, as well as a Forged Anew. This is a good hand. We will keep it. Our opponent appears to be on Elves. We will Portable Hole the Llanowar Elves. Slow them down a bit. Give us time to set up. Hammer is a good top deck. So here we can play out our Kemba. And then we will hold Pithing Needle until we know which one of their boost cards they play. If they go for Crater Hoof, we won't have a target. And I think we do play out the Aid here as opposed to the Hammer, both of which will cost 1 mana next turn, whether it's equipping Hammer or casting it. Three mana here from our opponent. And they do search up a Crater Hoof. Inkmoth is a good pickup. It means next turn we will also be able to attempt lethal in the air if our opponent doesn't kill us. We will destroy the Empath. And then we'll tutor up a second Hammer. Next turn we can activate our Inkmoth Nexus and attack in, and then after blockers are declared we can cast the Colossus Hammer and equip it with Sigarda's Aid. So our opponent needs to come up with a creature with reach this turn. That's mana neutral, though they do get an additional green pip as opposed to a colorless pip. Alright, so it looks like they're not going to have a flying blocker. Here we can activate our Inkmoth. Then we'll attack in. We'll let them declare blockers. And then we'll cast our Hammer. Infect damage is done in the form of poison counter, so our opponent will take 11 poison here, and that'll be game over. Good game. This hand allows us to tutor for our Hammer. We also have a Mother for protection. We are on the draw as well. I think it might be a bit too slow, but we'll give it a try for science. Could be a Hammer match from our opponent. Here we'll hold up our tutor. If they don't kill us, we might want to get our Portable Hole. They do grab the Hammer. Here, if we grab the Portable Hole, we can exile the Cacophony Scamp, but they'd then just be able to equip Hammer to Stoneforge. Playing out a blocker probably won't help. I actually think we will tutor up our Ancient Den instead. This way we can play out 2 blockers. And then next turn, assuming they both survive, our mother will be able to protect itself from damage. Then we just have to worry about a fling effect. They do have Sigarda's Aid. And they play out the hammer in advance of attacking, so we'll know which one we need to block. They decide not to attack at all, which is fine with us. We'll use our Stone Forge to tutor up the hammer. And then we'll cost reduce it using our Kemba. Not attacking by our opponent does indicate that they do have a fling effect in hand, which means they can just throw their scamp, and then when it dies, it will deal an additional 11 damage as well. And the Shadow Spear will also do it here. The trample damage means that even if we give protection, they will still be able to trample over, and then sacrificing for 12 means we would need to block 7 of this damage, which we can't do. Good game. And here they sacrifice the scamp. So our opponent had a pretty good hand here. This hand has Kemba and Colossus Hammer in it. We'll keep. Also has a Shadow Spear for a bit of evasion if our opponent is able to generate some chump blockers. Just hoping to dodge discard here. A new brew from our opponent. We'll see if they're able to handle the early pressure. If we draw the land next turn, we can play out the Shadow Spear and equip. Otherwise, we will most likely play out both Giver and Mother. White mana can also kill our Kemba or exile our Colossus Hammer. Our opponent plots a Slick Shot Show-Off. And unfortunately, we do not draw a mana here, otherwise we would have won. So our opponent will chump block. And then I think we play out the Mother, and we'll actually play out the Shadow Spear here. If our opponent doesn't destroy the Mother, then she can protect Kemba next turn. Otherwise, we can just equip the Shadow Spear. Our opponent would need a lot of free pitch interaction to deal 20 damage to us. They shock in a land. Let's see if they have enough. That's 5. Right, 7, and they cut the 7. That will not do. Unfortunately, the Dreadmaw does deal with our hammer. They let us draw a card. So we're looking for a Forged Anew or Sigarda's Aid. We find Sigarda's Aid. Will they attempt a removal spell now? They will not. So we can equip our Shadow Spear. And here we'll hit for 2. If they take the 2, I think we hold Hammer in our hand. As expected, they do have a removal spell. So we'll get to draw a card here. And then they're giving their Slickshot Indestructible, which will not stop them from the trample damage. Alright, so there you have the deck. Similar to last time, we did have quite a few early game wins where we were able to play out the Colossus Hammer on turn 2 and put on significant pressure to our opponent. In addition, we were able to highlight the benefit of having Kaldra Compleat in the deck as well. It was able to show up in a few games and contribute positively to the outcome of the game. Comparing the win percentage of this version versus the previous version, they both performed very well with a high win percentage. It would take a significant number of additional gameplay to really determine which one of the two versions is better. Ultimately, I think it comes down to which playstyle you prefer. We did have a handful of games this time where Pithing Needle was able to shut down our opponent's strategy. We were still able to utilize Gingerbrute and Portable Hole as tutor targets for Enlightened Tutor. Overall, the deck continues to perform very well, and I would give it 2 thumbs up and encourage you to try it for yourselves. As always, thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe for more content.